Hey everybody, no I'm streaming live, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So my name is John. I'm a North Carolina representative for 3D Response Systems. 3D Response is based out of Minnesota. It was developed by career law enforcement officers who have since retired. It's a comprehensive, multi-layered system that is designed to protect the kids, teachers, basically the stakeholders, primarily in schools, but we don't necessarily have to only install in schools. We can install in medical facilities, uh, hospitals, doctors, dentist offices. We can do financial institutions, banks, credit unions, anywhere where there may be a possible active threat for active shooter incident or any kind of threat for that matter. It doesn't have to be an active shooter. So the system is it's about probably going on 12 years old now. We do have our patent on the system, and as I stated a minute ago, it's multi-layered and it's a comprehensive system. So I've been doing this for about 2 years now, primarily trying to get it here in North Carolina that I'll take on anybody in any state, any school district, private, public, churches, uh, Catholic schools, anywhere, any kind of educational facility or any kind of business for that matter. Just I'm going to throw my email address up so you can email me if you have any questions. Be glad to answer those. To shoot me an email. You can find most of our stuff, prior news interviews that Jason Polinsky, the president of 3D Response, has done, multiple podcasts and interviews, things like that. System trying. Yeah. So because it's multi-layered, comprehensive, you can't really get to it, describe it. It's a matter of it usually takes 45 minutes to an hour to describe it when we do our presentations. We are active on X. Uh, I'm doing most of my stuff on X, Facebook. Uh, we've got a download PDF you can find on the website. You can download that, look at it. Uh, if you're in a school district and interested in somebody that's in like a board education or even for that matter in the political field, and you would like to see the system in your state, school district, county, whatever the case may be, contact them. Right now, there's several bills that are actually on the floor in Minnesota that will make our system uh, a building code. We've had representatives to tour school, and Representative Howe in Minnesota was actually on record saying that he was skeptical at first, but once he's toured the school, he is all for it. And this is needed in every school across the United States. So when we do our uh, X spaces, a lot of times we get questions that are asked, well, what do you think about teachers? What do you think about uh, putting more school resource officers in a school? What do you think about bringing in retired military, having them do that? And I will be honest and fully transparent. On the Army teachers, when I first got started, I was actually behind that concept, that idea. But once I got into it, having some law enforcement experience, there's a lot of things that people that are not familiar with that type field are not familiar with the red tape that comes along with all teachers. So I like to try to educate people. So one of my things that I say uh, when talking to those in the educational field is those in law enforcement or that have been in law enforcement do not tell educators how to educate. Why are educators telling everybody how to secure their school? School administrators will go and install cameras. They will um, they will put in different components into the school. and call it secure and safe. It's not secure, it's not safe. Let's talk about cameras. What are cameras going to do to protect your child from an active shooter threat? The answer is nothing. Uh, all cameras is going to do is it's going to be of evidentiary value. It's going to record the incident. So it's really not going to do anything to help anybody during the incident. Uh, Metal detectors, I know a lot of school districts are now going to metal detectors. They are not 100%. And there lies another issue is one of the big manufacturers of a metal detector is recommending anywhere from 3 to 5 staff members per metal detector. That's in case it goes off, you pull, a student or a teacher for that matter, anybody, wherever or for whatever is going off, you've got to pull a staff member to check the person and check the kind of bags or anything like that. So that's kind of your resources. Metal detectors are not 100%. They're not going to pick up uh, everything. At the same time, when they pick up things that are not a weapon, I've heard of metal detectors picking up obviously notebooks, iPads, uh, eyeliner, um, things of that nature, which if you're not running the program correctly, you're going to you're going to get a backup in the line, getting students in. I have seen metal detectors go off and people let the subjects through. There was an incident. Well, what really was an incident, it was more a friend of mine who works in law enforcement uh, went to their daughter's school to actually help out with a project, an art type project, and they had, I think they said about 5 or 6 pair of the like school scissors, blades, are metal, had them in their back pocket. They also had in their front pocket. Walked through the metal detector did not even go off. So they're not 100%. Another issue with school budgets, uh, when the budgets are reduced for whatever reason, and uh, you have to have school involved and stuff like that. That's going to come down the number of people that you're going to have available to man these metal detectors. So what we have seen in some instances is metal detectors aren't even turned on any given day. They may periodically be on a Monday, a Wednesday, and a Friday one week, and then they be on Tuesday, Thursday of the next week, or they may not even be on the following week. And there's no rhyme or reason, and there's no kind of pattern. But for them to be on every day in every school, I'm hearing that that's not the case. So that in itself lies a problem. Another problem is this, and this is the analogy I like to use. When there's an armed person running around in your neighborhood or say in your county, and they're bad enough to be put on the news by the local law enforcement agency, you see a banner that says so and so armed and dangerous, do not approach, call police. Uh, any kind of wording like that, extremely dangerous, whatever the case may be. Well, if you've got an armed subject walking through the door of a school and a metal detector goes off, why are we asking our teachers and school administrators to confront an armed individual at school when we're telling them not to do it, uh, you know, outside of school? That makes no sense. It's contradictory. And to be perfectly honest, school administrators and teachers are not trained to deal with armed subjects. Another thing is that if they're there to do damage, they're going to start doing the damage right then. I'm not saying that that's necessarily a good thing or a bad thing, but the incident is going to start right then. So that's a big problem. We're looking at AI weapon detection. That is a new concept that has come up, and I'm not going to name any companies, but about a year ago, I went to a meeting where an AI company was being considered for implementation into a school district, and the representative for the AI company was straight out asked, "Is your system 100%? Is it going to pick up 100%?" of the time, and he said no. One of the other things that goes with that is there are ongoing costs annually on the AI weapon detection system. I'm talking software updates, uh, depending on how the system is set up. Usually, all that stuff is stored on a hub or a mainframe, some people will call it. There's wear and tear on that. You're going to have upgrades on that, data storage, so forth. Uh, you're just looking at ongoing cost. If you've been keeping up with the AI world, has transitioned over the last, let's just say, 2 years. One of the big topics on the news is how much power AI requires. So I done some digging on that last year. So to give you a little bit of education on AI as far as the weapon detection, the AI software can be installed per camera, or it can be installed on the main hub, the main computer mainframe. It can be installed there. So if you install the AI software on a per camera basis, you're looking at an increase of an average of around 5% per camera per year. Now, that may not sound like a whole lot. The problem lies is, are you going to put the software on every camera? If you don't, are you opening yourself up to liability? And when I say you, I'm talking about the school district or the school system. Are you opening yourself up to lawsuits if it happens and subjects walk by these cameras that don't have it installed, and therefore not pick up? I don't want to call anything. I spoke with a gentleman last year who's often called as an expert witness in school shootings where there have been lawsuits filed. And one of the examples that he gave me is that there was an incident that happened, and AI was not installed on one of the cameras that should have up the weapon, where the student walked by, I think it was 7 times, either 7 or 9 times, walked by the same camera, numerous times, and it never alerted. So he's going back and doing his investigation on behalf of the plaintiffs in the lawsuit. He finds out that AI was not installed in that camera. So if I remember correctly, everybody now is being sued for a false sense of security because it wasn't installed. If it's installed on the mainframe, you're going to have an average of about 13 to 15% energy increase. That may not sound like a lot. It may. If you look at the power bill for a average size high school, and I did this for a high school that's very near me, I found their annual power bill, and you add 15% of that, it was going to add $160,000 a year onto their power bill. So that's 160,000 annually. So you multiply that times ever how many schools you've got in your school district if you do it that way. So that's going to put a strain on budgets, school budgets, so forth. So who's left holding the bag on that? At the end of the day, the taxpayers are. Yes, it sounds great. Uh, there have been some false flags up in Maryland. I think it was Maryland back in the fall. I believe it was. There was some high school students that had stayed after football, waiting on their ride to pick them up, and one of the students had gotten a bag of Doritos, and the way he was holding it, and then sat down at a picnic table waiting on his ride. And the next thing they know, they're being approached by 4 police officers with the weapons drawn because the officers were dispatched as and were basically told that there was a student there armed with a handgun. What they found out when they went back and looked at the video, the camera that detected this, they found that this individual was holding a bag of Doritos, and it was the way he was holding the bag of Doritos. He was holding the bag as if he would have been holding a handgun. So that's what it alerted on. Uh, I've been trying to keep up with that. There was rumor that there was going to be some lawsuits filed, but I don't know if there actually was. So yes, it sounds good, but at the end of the day, are they going to stop a bullet? No. Metal detectors and AI detection is on the system. It's only going to work if it works and if you have somebody there that's trained to deal with the threat, if it is a true threat. Teachers are not armed, uh, principals are not armed. You get, I mean, you understand what I'm saying. If the subject's armed, I mean, it's over with. They're going to own that school. So they get by the school administrators or the staff or whoever it is manning the metal detectors. They get by them. The kids are sitting ducks. Nothing they have in that school is going to protect them for what's about to come unless they have 3D response. And that's where we come in. Regardless of however, and we're not saying get rid of your metal detector. We're not saying get rid of AI weapon detection. We're not saying that at all. Personally, I believe the layers you have in place, the better off you are. But at the end of the day, the two things are not going to stop a bullet when they start. This is where 3D response comes in. So we go into schools. We understand that budgets are an issue, so we don't put our system or any of our components where it's not needed. We keep the school budget in mind. Uh, I mean, if we don't need it, if a school does, or the school building doesn't need it, we don't put it there. So one of the things we do is on the first, so when there's an active threat and there's a notification of the threat, if you think about a fire alarm system is required in every single school in the United States to get a certificate of occupancy. Our system is based on the fire suppression system, fire alarm system, whatever you want to call it. It's just for a different threat. So the question is, we got a fire system, so why don't we have a system like this for a different threat? So this is why I'm addressing this. So we're going to run through some of the components here, and then I'm going to get to the questions. So we done a show on Uvalde. Some of you may or may not be aware that one of the first officers was being tried for 19 counts of child endangerment. He was found not guilty, but during that trial, some of the teachers gave testimony, and we took some video clips of that, actual video from the trial. We uh, built a show out of that with Uvalde. And we've said in previous presentations that had our system been installed at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, there's not one kid dead. There's not one teacher dead. And people are saying to me, well, that's a bold statement to make. How can you say that? Well, you look at this show and you'll see what I'm talking about. When he gets out and starts shooting, our system is activated because there was I think she was a teacher's aide or after school coordinator. That's what it was. After school coordinator that heard the shots. She, she thought the individual had legitimately wrecked and went to help and then saw him get out of the truck and grab his rifle and start shooting. She runs back into the door uh, and notifies one of the teachers. So this is where our system comes into play. So I'm going to remove my
completely hidden so you don't lose that learning environment feel.
3D Response Systems is a multi-layered design to get the police there faster and provide tools for the people inside to survive.
I went there as a skeptic. I'm not a skeptic any longer.
Why isn't this in every school?
Because the loss of even one child's life is one too many.
Well, let's get this word out and make sure that we support folks like Representative Hudson and we're in.
You get that cut off. Okay. So when you're talking about arming teachers, uh, there's a lot of things people don't understand. Are you going to give teachers qualified immunity? And those of you in law enforcement and some outside of law enforcement, you may be familiar with what qualified immunity is. You're not going to be able to give teachers qualified immunity. Are the teachers, number one, let me back up one step. The teacher or our teachers leave after y'all want to. I'm going to say about 98% of them have said no. They don't want ability. So moving forward, are you going to give them qualified immunity? Are you going to teach them first aid? Are you going to teach them gun retention? Are you going to teach them less lethal? Are you going to give them less lethal? One of the things, and just a couple of weeks ago, talking to a security guy at a school, a private school near me, he had a couple of teachers that showed interest in carrying in the classroom. So he brought him, he's former law enforcement. He brought him in and he was like, okay, I understand y'all want to do this. Let's talk about this. This was before I could talk. So it kind of backs up our or pushback. I don't like arguing. I don't want to use the word argue, but anyway, kind of the pushback on it. When he brought it to their attention that if they miss and hit another student, injure another student, or worse, they're going to be held liable. There's a lot of things that can happen during an incident like that. If you've got a teacher uh, that's engaging in the threat and law enforcement walks through or comes down the hallway and sees, what is, unknown is the teacher firing rounds, it's going to be a bad day for that teacher. Uh, they're not going to, chances are I mean, they're probably going to yell police or whatnot, but if the teacher hears them or not, I mean, that's just another story. You're opening that's a huge door and a huge can of worms harming the teacher. Uh, people can say, well, you can identify the target and all that. If you've got to see somebody shoot, you're going to shoot an individual. You've got an active shooter threat. Uh, so it could be a bad day for that teacher. Going to the gun retention. I know I've seen some of these high school students, hell, for that matter, middle school students, and a lot of these students can never take a teacher. Then learn lies, where are you going to keep the firearm? It just it it brings a firearm into a school that opens up a whole potential issues. Is that teacher wanting or willing to take a chance on losing everything that they've ever worked for, and that's including their house? because if it goes bad, um, they can lose all that. It just and my thing also with that is if you've got an active shooter threat, I do not believe that a teacher should be leaving their classroom. I think the teachers should stay in the classroom, trying to keep the kids calm, doing what they need to do inside the classroom to create that safe space, to keep them calm the best they can. They need to stay in the classroom. They don't need to be out in the hallway, leaving kids unattended, whether it be kindergarten, preschool, all the way up to 12th graders. They don't need to be leaving the classroom. They need to make sure everybody's behind all that ballistic material, staying safe. And that goes back to Uvalde. If those kids would have had our system, they, number one, would have had cover, concealment, and communication. One of the teachers testified that she felt like they were sitting ducks. They were sitting desk on top of desk with the thought process that those desks were going to stop the bullets that were flying. They were hiding behind black plastic, I'm sorry, black fabric curtains that covered up like a bookshelf. They were hiding behind that. They were basically sitting ducks. One teacher testified that she didn't know if her door was locked. She had her key on her, but she could hear the gunshot, and she did not know whether she'd be able to make it to the door in time to lock it. She had her keys in her hand, and she was fumbling with her keys. Uh, when you have an incident like that, your adrenaline and everything else is going to be at its max. I mean, you're going to be fumbling keys, you're going to be dropping keys. Are you going to be able to get the key in the keyhole if you can get to the door? There's a lot of issues there. Again, if our system had been there, they push the button, that door's locked. They're not getting in, they're not able to shoot through it. One of the classrooms, the door riddled with bullet holes. So again, and I will harp on this. Had our system been in Uvalde, there's not one kid dead. Whether it took them 5 minutes to respond and do something, or whether it took them the 77 minutes to finally do something, those kids would have been safe. Those teachers would have been safe. And so the other thing, because he was able to enter a classroom, they had to wait on him, basically, or they had to confront him, so to speak. With our system, you're basically forcing a confrontation between the threat and law enforcement, which is exactly what you want. He has no room that he can get in. He's out in the hallway. Law enforcement comes in the door. The firefights on, um, and it's over. There's no 77 minutes of trying to figure out who's going, what we're going to do. Uh, so again, seconds matter, and 77 is, uh, I don't even want to talk about it because it pisses me off. So anyway, we also we hear a lot about military. Military is the same thing. If you've got retired military, number one, ask them, do y'all want to do it? Two, we've had insurance companies tell us we will not insure a school district if they put armed teachers, armed civilian staff in the schools. They will not insure them. So there lies a problem. Um, and um, I'm not throwing shade on anybody in the military. We all know that some of our military have PTSD issues. Um, they have, they've seen things that we're not supposed to see. They've had to do things that, we're not supposed to do. So, do you want to take a chance on somebody going through a bad time or a bad space, and do the unthinkable? Um, you've got to be trained to do this. And sometimes we're talking about military people that's been out of the field for a number of years. They've not been kept up on the training. They're revert back to the training that they have had in the past, however long ago it was. Just putting another gun in the school other than a school officer is a bad idea. There's just too many things. There was one school, to be a where it was. They did have an armed civilian there. It was an armed teacher. I can't remember which. Anyway, they went to the restroom and they left a firearm in the stall. And when they got done, they left. A kid found the gun to the principal. Uh, there's just a lot of issues with arming teachers. I hope that makes sense. One of the other arguments, or one of the, I know I keep saying arguments. One of the other things that we hear is, what about more school resource officers? Number one, you can't guarantee the school resource officer is going to be where the school resource officer needs to be when they need to be there. You can have a school resource officer dealing with another issue, one end of the school in their office, and there be shots at the other end of the school. That officer is probably not going to hear it. The other thing is that even if most school resource officers have radios, two-way radios uh, attached to the school, even if they're notified, they've got to get to where it is. They got to find it. So that goes back is the SRO where they need to be when they need to be there. Seconds matter. Yeah, it's a great idea. Again, back to school budgets. Uh, it takes just to hire somebody, send them through school. Here in North Carolina, it's called BLET, Basic Law Enforcement Training. It's going to cost anywhere from 100,000 to 100, and maybe I've seen the number of 150. I don't know if it's that high, but let's just go with $100,000 just to hire them, send them to school. Well, their annual salary on top of everything else is going to cost about that per year annually. You take the county that I'm in, which has 89 public schools. I'm not talking private, 89 public schools. So even if you add another school resource officer per school, that's 89 schools. That's 89 officers, $100,000 on an average, and that's all floating. You're looking at $8.9 million annually. To give you a rough estimate for an average high school for our system, you're probably looking at 1.5, 1.7 million. Yes, that seems a lot, but at the same time, we see bond referendums. We see, I don't know the technical term for it. We see football fields being put in for budget. We see new stadiums being put in on budget, swimming pools. Uh, the list goes on and on. Where are the priorities? I understand that some school districts don't have the money for that. There are other ways to fund 3D response. There's bond referendums, there's lease options, there's fundraisers. One of the first schools that we went in, which was Christian Heritage Academy, which is out in Edville, Minnesota, they raised the money. I think it was in about 5 weeks. Now, granted, it wasn't that high. I think it was around five, 600,000, but we raised the money in I think it was 5 weeks. So the funding is I don't want to say it's not an issue, but it's not as big an issue as some think it is. If you can get the people that need to say yes, uh, we can help get the funding done with the ideas and stuff like that. Currently, as I mentioned at the first of the video, there's a bill out in Minnesota on the floor now that basically makes the system a building code. Uh, it does come with funding. Any state can adopt this bill. So if you put it on the state level, uh, you probably have a better chance of getting that done. If you have a child or children in private schools, it's probably going to be a whole lot easier to do that. Catholic schools, since the Annunciation shooting, we've had 3 signed contracts, uh, and then another one's waiting to be signed as we speak, and that was all uh, uh, kicked off by the Annunciation. Catholic schools are really, really liking our system. the Archdiocese has seen our system, uh, and they're all for it. It's moving forward, but again, it's in Minnesota. So, at the end of the day, my goal is to get it here in North Carolina. I'll do any other state but North Carolina because it's my home state. So that's what I'm trying for. So we've addressed the teachers, the school resource officers, trying to think if there was anything. I'm not showing any visitors. I know this was short notice, so if you would, I am streaming this to Facebook and I am streaming it to YouTube. If you do see you have a question or concern, either email me. My email address is there at the bottom, and just shoot me an email. Uh, if you want me to call you, I'll call you. If you want me back on email, I can do that as well. But yeah, let me know. And again, check out the website at 3dresponse.com, and you can learn more about our system. I'm also on X. It's 3D response underscore NC, or you can just do it in the search. You may also find Jason. His name is Jason Polinsky. He's the president. He just retired about 6 months ago from Lakeview Police Department out in Minnesota. He's now devoting 100% of his time to get this off and going. Uh, there's also a contact us page on the website as well. So anyway, obviously, if you've watched this and stayed this long, I greatly, greatly appreciate it. Leave me a thumbs up, thumbs down. I'm sorry about the video quality over there. I don't know what caused that. I don't do much streaming, but I will work on that. But anyway, just leave me some comments, good, bad, indifferent, and uh, if it's a bad review, just leave it in the comments. If it's a good review, leave it in the comments and give me a thumbs up. I'm just trying to build this channel. So again, if you have any questions, shoot me an email, and thank you again. Uh, my name's John, and look forward to talking to you soon.